Hey everyone, my name is Caroline Shin. I'm the product marketing manager within the Microsoft 365 team, and I'm responsible for e-discovery and audit capabilities. I'm joined here today by my colleague Sujit Narayanayan, who's the principal PM manager for our audit capabilities within Microsoft 365. And today we're excited to talk to you guys about how to power your forensic and compliance investigations within Advanced Audit. So with that, let's get started. So we've known for some time that digital data is exploding, which is creating complex challenges for managing risk and meeting compliance obligations within organizations. However, another thing that we're seeing is that the increased remote work is accelerating customers' digital transformation. And as organizations adapt, they want to be able to effectively respond to their regulators in their new environment and as users are collaborating in new ways. And to help within Microsoft 365, our audit capabilities can be provided within one place across 30 different Microsoft 365 workloads, which provides insights into user activities, admin activities, all out of the box. And then on top of this, we provide enhanced capabilities within Advanced Audit to power your forensic investigations and more effectively respond to your regulatory, legal, and compliance obligations. So let's talk a little bit more about those Advanced Audit capabilities in the next slide. So really quickly, there are three key capabilities that we offer within Advanced Audit to help you with your regulatory and legal and compliance obligations. Earlier this year, we announced Advanced Audit as a new capability. And as part of that, we delivered one new event to help organizations to investigate and forensically investigate if mail items were accessed through the mail sync and the mail bind operation. And this is extremely helpful for organizations with regulatory obligations that require them to provide breach notifications. And Advanced Audit will help by providing these capabilities that help scopes the email items that have been accessed by a malicious actor, which can help reduce the fines and the penalties by scoping the mail items that have been accessed. And we're also excited to share that we're providing several new events, such as the mail send event, as well as the user search events to further augment forensic investigations with Advanced Audit. Another key area that we're helping our customers is around retaining the audit logs. So according to Ponemon Research, the most recent research, they've estimated that roughly it takes 6 months to detect a data breach. And customers need capabilities to be able to forensically investigate audit events for up to 1 year. And so within Advanced Audit, we're extending audit log events from 90 days to up to 1 year. And new to Advanced Audit, we're also providing the option to add on 10-year retention for those organizations that are running very long running forensic investigations or have rigorous regulatory requirements that require them to keep those audit logs for longer. And then lastly, for customers that are using the Management Activity API, Advanced Audit provides twice the bandwidth as other customers in order to help our customers to access their audit data when they're using third-party solutions. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the scenarios that customers can use our Advanced Audit capabilities for. So as I mentioned before, there are several regulatory and legal obligations where Advanced Audit can help. The first is around assessing the scope of compromise during a data breach. Several local and regional and industry regulations require customers to send notification in the event there's been a data breach. However, a lot of times the tools aren't sophisticated enough to be able to assess that scope of breach and to be able to defensively provide evidence on what was and wasn't compromised. The second area that we're helping our customers with is around legal investigations and legal requests. So often these requests require holds to be done in order to conduct investigations and very thorough investigations and provide that relevant content. However, in the event there's a long-running investigation and a new person of interest has been found and their data hasn't been placed on hold, Advanced Audit can actually augment those investigations and provide further insight to those user activities. So let's talk a little bit further about these different scenarios and walk more deeply into how Advanced Audit can actually help you. And with that, I'll pass it on to Sujit to talk a little bit more about forensic investigations using Advanced Audit.
Thank you, Caroline. So one of the prime use cases for audit is to be able to perform forensic investigations so organizations can meet their regulatory obligations around reporting data breaches. Let's take an example from the healthcare industry where Fabricam Hospital has had a data breach. So the scenario here is that a malicious attacker has performed a targeted phishing attack and gained access to an end user's account within the hospital organization. Once this happens, the attacker then proceeds to steal data from emails and files, and it may take up to many months for this data breach to be detected by the hospital. So once the breach has been detected, the hospital now has a regulatory obligation to perform an assessment of whether PHI data was compromised or not. And if PHI data was compromised, then it has a reporting obligation as well. So the hospital now has two choices. So if it has tools to actually scope the data breach, then it can perform a targeted investigation. But if it does not, then it has to presume that all data has been breached, including all PHI that this user account had access to. So if that's the case, then the scope of the breach becomes very large and the reporting obligations become very complicated. But Microsoft Audit can provide a very scoped assessment of the exact data that was breached by this user. And this can be done across a variety of services such as Exchange, SharePoint, and other services. So let's take a closer look at how that's accomplished. Audit has access to a broad set of user activities for forensic investigations across 30 plus Microsoft services that send it user and admin activity data. So this helps Audit in the previous example answer questions for the hospital's forensic investigators, such as where did this attacker log in from? Was it from a known IP or location, or was it a suspicious or malicious location? Once the attacker gained access, what actions on the Exchange email box of the user account were performed? Which emails were read? Were any emails sent or forwarded? And did they contain any patient health information? Within the SharePoint files that this attacker had access to, what documents were read or modified? Did they contain any PHI data or not? And finally, what searches were performed against email and SharePoint on behalf of this compromised user? Did they contain any specific search terms that might give us a clue about what the attackers were searching for? So the key point is that audit enables this kind of rich forensic investigation because it has access to all of these important events for such an investigation. And with advanced audit being able to retain data for a minimum of 1 year, that provides investigators the breadth of the data that they need to finish their investigation successfully. So with that, let's take a look at the demo in practice. So the scenario here is, again, an attacker has gained access to user account and then proceeded to search email in SharePoint, access SharePoint files, read user email, and potentially even exfiltrate data by sending email out of this account. So the key questions that the demo will answer are how can advanced audit help to uncover what the attacker did? So let's start the demo.
Okay, so let's take a look at how advanced audit can help in this forensic investigation. So the first search I'm going to do is for all these search activities that this compromised user has performed. So specifically, I'm going to look at email searches and SharePoint searches performed by this user for a given time period. So the results that were returned correspond to both the SharePoint and email searches, and let's see what they contain. So the first SharePoint search that I see is for a query for medical record number, which seems like very suspicious. Let's see what the other searches contain. So now we have searches for patient data being performed by the same attacker during this time period. And now let's take a look at the email searches and like what kind of information was the attacker searching for. So the first search query I see is for SSNs, and now furthermore I see like some more for SSNs and HIPAA. So now it gets more interesting. Now they're looking for health data. So this kind of analysis based on search events from email and SharePoint lets the forensic investigator know what the attacker was searching for. Audit can also help you determine what files an attacker accessed or modified. So for this, we use the SharePoint file access and file modification activities and scope it down to the user of interest. And the search results very quickly show you what files were accessed at what times by this attacker. And you can drill deep into the metadata of the access as well, which shows you things like the IP address and the specific file name and folder name of the SharePoint file in question. So this lets investigators determine what actual files were accessed by the attacker and whether their contents contained any PHI data or not. Audit can also help you determine if the attacker managed to exfiltrate data out using Exchange email. By performing a sent message activity search with an Exchange for the specified user and the time period of interest, you can get a look at all the messages that were sent out by the attacker in this time frame. So here is an example of an event where the user sent out an email with the following subject, which seems suspicious, and also attachment with a name and a file size here. So this kind of event is generated even if the attacker attempts to cover their traces and hard deletes the email from the sent items folder, because the audit trail is generated at the time of the action. So there's no way for the attacker to basically modify or obfuscate their actions. Finally, audit can also help the forensic investigator look at the exact email messages that the attacker was able to access. So PHI data can be contained not just in files but in emails as well. And by getting to know exactly what emails were read by the attacker at a certain point in time, you will get a better picture of what PHI content they were or were not able to access. So this again contains all the metadata necessary, such as date, IP address, and the exact message IDs and so forth.
Thanks, Sujit. So that was a really good demo around how customers can use Advanced Audit to conduct their forensic investigations. But another scenario that customers can use Advanced Audit for is around legal requests. Generally, organizations can use e-discovery capabilities to follow to legal requests, but sometimes organizations need a more efficient way to go back to historical data without holding large volumes of data. And so to give you a little bit more detail around that, during the process of e-discovery, an organization would identify the custodian, their related data sources, and then place that content on hold so that they can't be deleted, and then they can conduct their investigation and the review of that content to find that relevant content. However, if that new evidence finds a new person of interest during a very long-running investigation, you might not be able to go back and find that relevant content or even that smoking gun. And oftentimes you don't want to keep that content arbitrarily for long periods of time, as it's risky, impractical, and expensive to do. However, with Advanced Audit, if Contoso here found a new person of interest, so let's say Nestor over here, and if his audit logs have been retained for a year, they can use those audit logs to find user activities such as files that have been accessed, files that have been modified, or even searches conducted by the user to find that smoking gun. And in the event that you need to keep the audit logs longer, you can actually optionally retain those audit logs for up to 10 years to support those long-running investigations, or even to meet the rigorous regulatory obligations that many financial services and healthcare customers have. So with that was just a quick overview of our audit and our advanced audit capabilities to help you power your forensic and compliance investigations. There's so much more to learn about these capabilities, but today we just quickly walk through some of the new capabilities that we offer within advanced audit, such as additional audit events, such as the mail send and the user search events, as well as the optional audit log retention that can be extended to 10 years. We hope that you guys can learn more with the resources that we provided here. You can go into the trial to take a tour of our capabilities, or if you have the right licenses to go into E5 and access the capabilities, or you can go into the documentation and access further videos and other resources to learn more about these capabilities. But with that, we thank you for your time, and we hope this was valuable. And until next time, thank you so much.